And today we're going to be talking about our wireless solutions. So it's a very good product that we have. We've had this product for the past 5 years, and very solid product, really stable, very easy to use. And we're going to be talking about how to use it and the different scenarios. But the first thing that I want to start with today is, and guys, by the way, if you want to talk to us, you could also use the chat in this presentation. Alejandra here is going to be helping me out and checking the chat to see if there are any questions or comments on that. So I want to try to go to the presentation from now until like 9:40, 9:45. And after that, then we're going to open up the Q's and A's session. All right. First thing that I want to do is I wanted to bring you to our website. I don't know if you have noticed, but we have a brand new website, and that website is has basically everything that we need. We have all the products, everything that you need to find that we sell, that we offer. You find it here, right? So here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to surveillance products, and under surveillance products, you're going to find wireless network. All right, and here you're going to find all the different wireless products that we have. Okay, if you need some spec sheets, then you can click on it and then just access the PDF file for the specification sheet. If you're having to turn this or use it for to submit a quote or a proposal, you can find all the information here. Okay, we're also going to make available this presentation in our support tab, so that you guys can have that and train your guys, your installers, your new installers, on how to use these point-to-point and point-to-multi-point radios. And again, we're trying to make as much information as possible available. Also, I wanted to show you that we have here a hang on, let me see where it is. Okay, here it is. So we also have some digital marketing material that you could use. We could send you these so that you could also modify it and put your information here, your company information, and pass it on to your clients so that they can contact you. We have these with many products. Let me show you. We have another example here for this. Oh, it's actually very similar, but this is the back part of it. Okay, and it shows the different products that we have, the P2PX, the 150 and the 900 with the different specifications. Okay, so again, all these marketing material is available for you. We have it printed in our stores with our distributors. They also have some of these printed material, but you can also request these from your sales representative, so that you guys can again edit it and put your information and send it out to your clients. Okay, or if you need to submit a proposal, just put that in there so that it illustrates a little bit better the product you're offering. Okay, so once again, I just wanted to let you know that we have that. And now we can start with the presentation. So, so what are we going to be covering up today? It's the product overview, the deep switches, meaning operation, installation recommendations. Okay, so this is the product overview. Let's talk about the TDP2P-X. So this is also 150 megabytes per second. Okay, so it's a small, very good unit that you could use for many different situations. We also have this one in as a kit. We offer it as a kit where you buy these, and then you can get two of them with the two PoE injectors, and with that you can also you have everything that you need to create a point-to-point connection, okay? So if you notice here on the back part of it, you also have an indicator just so that you can actually see the signal strength whenever they're connecting to each other. And you also see the bracket that you could use with a strap, a metal strap, or you could have a couple of screws and, you know, tie it to a wall or tie it to a pole. That's completely up to you. And at the bottom here, we have the little lead. So what makes this different between from the TDP2P X-150 is that this particular unit takes 12 volts DC, or it's also PoE, but the PoE on this unit, it's 24 volts DC. That's why whenever you buy these in a kit, it comes with the PoE injector, okay, for 24 volt DC. Don't connect these to a regular PoE switch. If you want to do that, then you can use the other one, okay? You can use the P2P 150. This is also PoE, 48 volts DC PoE. So you can connect this one into any PoE switch, okay? And then, so that's basically the difference. This one does not have the 12 volt DC input. And now you're like, why do we have 12 volts DC on this one? Because we want you to use this point-to-point radio with our solar solutions. Our solar solutions are pushing 12 volts DC, and with that, there is no need of an inverter that, you know, will power a PoE switch so that you can have a point-to-point connected to it. So keep that in mind when you're doing a solar installation. You could use the TDP2P-X. If you're not, then maybe you are going to be better off with the 150 or the 900. Now, the 900 is the bandwidth is basically what will be a lot greater, right? So you have almost 900 megabytes per second. And that means that you can connect a lot more devices or can transmit a lot more data through it, okay? So the 900 is also PoE, regular PoE, 48 volts DC, so you can also connect it to a PoE switch. But we also have the injectors, guys. So you could do whatever you want. You could install it and connect it to a PoE switch. But if you prefer to separate it, then we also have the injectors. The injectors are very reasonable. They are at a very reasonable price, and you can have them separated from a regular PoE switch. Okay, so those are 3 radios. These are some of the accessories. The TDP2P-BRK, which is the bracket, right? So that one you can also strap it to a pole or bolt it to a wall, and then that little you know, stick that's basically, you know, bent, and that's where you're gonna mount your radio. Now that one can also rotate a little bit for easier adjustment or aiming. If you have, if you're at a, you know, if you install this in a pole and then you have the other radio at an angle, then easily you could rotate your antenna using this mount, okay? Now the PoE TDP2P dash, I'm sorry, X dash slash 24 or the 48, we have the 2 PoE injectors. So it depends which radio you're going to be using. One is going to go to the radio. The other one is going to go to your local area network. Okay, router, switch, whatever you want to name it. So we have those available as well. Just ask us for it. Okay. So this is just also a little illustration of the actual industrial design of these units. They're all outdoor rated, so you could easily have them mounted outside, you know, no problems. We have, again, thousands of these out there through you guys, and it's really rare to see these coming back. You know, they're very sturdy, they're very well made, and the units, once you set them up, you know, normally they stay there for a very, very long time. And as I said, this one also has the indicator. So you see that on the side, you have the indicator. You also have not only for the signal strength, but also, you know, the activity for the LAN, if you're using the second port also, and your power, which is very important. Okay. So also we have our 4G LTE wireless router, right? Now this is a great unit as well, because this allows you to basically install some cameras, you know, in a pole or in a barn where you don't have internet access, and the only thing that you do is you need a SIM card, so that you could slide it into one of its ports, and then you can get internet from it. Now, this is an actual router, so it will give out IP addresses if the units are set up on DHCP. You can also set them up on static. It will also broadcast Wi-Fi. So, you know, if you have if you want to put that in a patio or in an area like a park, and you want people to have Wi-Fi through that cellular signal, you can do that. Okay, so and also through its LAN ports, you can connect to several different devices. We sell these for cameras, but you know, it's just data, so basically you could connect anything to it. Another great thing about this particular one is that it's got 2 SIM card slots. So for redundancy or security purposes, if one of them is not, you know, strong enough, then the router automatically will go to the other SIM card slot or the other SIM card and look for a better signal, for a stronger signal, so that it can give you always a good signal, right? Also, this particular unit comes, it's 24 volts DC. So, and it comes with its injector, which can also be powered by a 12 volt DC power input. Okay, why? Because we also wanted to make this available and compatible with our solar solutions. So if you, and next week, guys, next week we're going to be talking about solar solutions, and we're going to be showing you the different solutions that we have, and that's where everything is going to make sense, right? Oh, okay, so this you could use with the antennas, and then this you can use it with the router, but again, you don't, they're not necessarily intended for solar only. Okay, you could use it in any other place with its injector and power it with the, you know, 110 volts DC, and then just use the injector to power the unit. Okay, so again, that's a great unit for remote locations. We use these also a lot with our trailers. It could easily manage 4 or 6 cameras. You could have access to them. We also offer the static IP cameras. I'm sorry, static IP address for our video monitoring team. So remember, guys, that we're also doing video monitoring. Okay, so but the video monitoring team requires static IP addresses. So this is offered as well, and with that we can connect remotely and monitor your cameras 24/7. Okay, so we will also talk about the monitoring in another presentation, but just keep that in mind. Okay. Now, we're going to be talking also a little bit about the dip function, right? So one of the things that make our radios great is the fact that you don't need a computer guy or an IT guy to program these units. Basically, anybody can do that. All you need to do is play with the dip switches that the units come with. Okay, so you see that right at the bottom, all of our units come with some dip switches. There are 10 little pins here, and I will show you right now. Okay, so that's actually how they look. There are 10 different dip switches, And the first one will indicate whether if the unit is an access point or a client, okay? So if you wanna do an installation quickly with a point-to-point, all you have to do is just switch pin number 1 on, and then that switch, it's gonna tell both radios, I am an access point, and you keep the other one down, and then this is gonna say, all right, so I am the client. And with that, guys, you're gonna be able to communicate, okay? Now, a lot of people are used to going into these antennas and with other brands and give them an IP address and go in there and, you know, tweak the gain and all that stuff. You don't need to do that with ours, okay? What you need to worry about are the IP addresses on the other side. If you connect some cameras to it, if you connect an MBR to it, if you connect a computer to it, you need to worry about the IP addresses for those devices, and they will travel through our wireless point-to-point. Now, these also are very easy to work with, because that doesn't mean that the units don't have an IP address. They do have an IP address, but it's a 172. You know, I think is 0.0. something else. And that IP address is normally, well, it'll be really, really rare that it will interfere with any common LAN configuration, okay? So that's why you don't have to really worry about that, okay? All these units, whenever you buy them, they come with a little booklet, okay? And it'll tell you what IP address they come with. So if you happen to bump into a situation where there's a conflict, you can always change the IP. How do you change the IP? Also by changing the frequency, okay? And how do you do that? You notice there that points 2 to 8 are going to be your matching key frequency selectors, okay? That is very important, guys. I told you before, if you want to do a point-to-point, all you need to do is get pin number 1 up for the access point, and then leave everything else down. And on the other one, just leave everything else down, okay? But I would also recommend you to change a couple of pins from 2 to 8 for security purposes. You could also choose one configuration for your company so that you always know what type of frequency you're doing your point-to-points most of the time. So you could easily choose point number 2, point number 5, point number 6. Even if it is only one of them, just, you know, put it up, but make sure that both your client and your access point have the exact same configuration from switches 2 to 8, okay? That way they can talk to each other. They're on the same frequency, they're on the same channel. But also by doing that, you change the IP address of the unit, okay? So that booklet that I told you before will tell you which IP address you'll get whenever you make a configuration, a change in the configuration here. So that also will not leave the unit in the default configuration where all of the pins are down, okay? So it'll be a little bit harder to get. These units don't have an SSID public, and it's encrypted configuration. So hacking to these units is extremely complicated. And if you change the configuration of the frequency, it makes it, it gives it that extra layer of security as well that you want in your installations, okay? And then number 9 and 10 are gonna be your IP keys, okay? So that is, I don't know if you guys remember the good old times where you have the RS485 PTCs that you need to do daisy chain, and you need to give them an address so that the main controller will identify it. Well, it's basically the same thing. And so the way that this works is that whenever you have a point to multi-point case, you want to actually identify each of the clients as different numbers. So make sure you have a different configuration on ports 9 and 10 whenever you're having a point to multi-point case, okay? Now, these units can handle up to 4 clients, okay? So keep that in mind. If you wanna do a point to multi-point, you have a 60-degree angle, which is something that I will illustrate later. And then within that 60-degree angle, you could put up to 4 different radios as clients, okay? But make sure again that the ports 9 and 10 are different in each of them so that you can have, the access point can identify all the clients. In this presentation, I cannot, I don't have this interactive, way to show it to you. But normally I will show you how the dip switches go up and down. But it doesn't matter if one of them will match the same IP address as the access point, okay? Because you're like, okay, how do you want me to separate? If there's only 2 pins, I can only do 4 different configurations: up, down, 1 up, 1 down. I'm sorry, 9 up, 10 up, right? So those are the 4 configurations you can do. But if one of them matches the access point, it doesn't matter, because the access point, remember, is going to have pin number 1 up. For the rest of the clients, the pin number 1 is going to stay down. And remember, this is key. Keep your 2 to 8 configuration the same for the whole group, okay? So access point number 1 goes up, 2 to 8 have a specific configuration for the whole group, and then number 9, you could keep those down or bring them up. And then on the first one, on this one right here, actually I could, oh, hang on, nope. There we go. Let me see if I could draw something here. There we go. Yeah, so this one will go up, and hang on, let me see. I don't know if that's gonna be, there you go. So this will go up, right? Then all these are going to stay in the same configuration throughout the whole unit, right? And let's just keep these 2 down, right? Here, you're gonna choose again the same configuration for these, but this one remains down, okay? And then here, for instance, you can choose to bring this one up, okay? Here, same thing, all in the same, this one down, and here you could choose 10 to stay up and 9 to stay down, okay? Now here, you could keep 9 and 10 down, and this one you could keep you have to push them up, okay? Getting better at doing arrows here. So with that configuration, you're in business. You have a whole group that is communicating to the main access point, and it's sending you the information that you want from the devices that are connected to these switches, okay? I'm sorry, these radios, okay? So, all right, so let's just go further. Oh, another thing that I wanted to say before we go further is that if you have let's say 2 groups, right? If you have 2 groups, 2 different groups, one group is keeping the same configuration, and let's say you have, because let's say you have, I don't know, you have 4 clients going to one antenna, and on the other side, going to that same main building, you have 2 radios that are 90 degrees from the main radio, so you cannot connect them, and plus you've reached the limit, right? So you need to create another group. Make sure that that secondary group has these the point pins 2 to 8 with that same configuration, okay? So that they don't interfere with each other. So these switches for the second configuration, they're going to have to change. Okay, just keep that in mind. That way, they're on a different frequency. It's a different group and they don't interfere with one another. All right. So again, this is important. You keep your groups with one same frequency. And if you have multiple groups, all you do is you do a different frequency for each of these groups. Okay, same with the point-to-point. If you have a point-to-point, if you have single point-to-point, let's say you have a star configuration, you keep one frequency for one point-to-point, one frequency for another point-to-point, and with that, you'll have the frequencies separated and there will be no interference. Okay. All right. There we go. So these are some of the different modes, transmission modes that we have. Okay, so this is the typical point-to-point. That's what you've heard. That's what you will use the most. It's very easy. Again, you have point A going to point B. And again, all you have to do is just choose, move your pin number 1 up for the client. And let me just do that for the client. And then the rest of them can stay down. But for this case, let's say I choose pin number 5 and then pin number 5 goes up. Okay. And then I do the exact same configuration for the client, but I make sure that pin number 1 stays down. And with that, you guys have connection. Okay. So that is the typical point-to-point connection. So with that, you will be in business. Now, this is another one, point to multi-point. Okay, so that's what I was actually referring to when I was talking that you have different groups. So let's just actually use a little bit here to, this here, guys, is gonna be your main point, where all your access points are going to be. Okay, I don't know if you could see my drawing. I'm gonna make it here again and again. This is gonna be the main site. Okay, so if you notice, this antenna right here, okay, it's got 3 clients. So 1, 2, and 3, all of them within that 60-degree angle from this antenna. Okay, so here to here is got 60-degree angle. Okay, now this is one group, and you have your access point with pin number 1 up and your configuration from 2 to 8, and then your address, you could leave it down or you could put it up, that's up to you. But then here you have point pin number 1 down. Your frequency selector gotta match this one, same as this one, same as this one, and then you have your pins 9 and 10 creating a different direction for these 3 antennas. Okay, and with that, we have one group here shooting to that main building. Then we have this other group. Okay, and it's going to be the same thing. So that other group is going to have these antennas over here, just, you know, receiving information from these antennas. Same thing, same frequency selector, just two clients to give addresses to, and that's it, right? And then the third one is just a single mode point to point. No, it doesn't matter. You can do, oops, sorry. This particular one, it's a group, it's a small group, it's a point-to-point group, but it'll have to have a different frequency selector. Keep that in mind, okay? And you don't need to worry about an address here because it's just a point-to-point, okay? So again, it's quite easy. And that's a point to multi-point. One of the things to consider here, guys, you notice, of course, this is a drawing, right? But let's say you don't have the capability of putting multiple poles. All you have to do is have a separation of at least 2 feet in between the access points. So let's say you have 2 access points on one pole. Make sure you have one all the way up, and then the other one at least 2 feet away from these ones so that we can avoid interference. Even though they're going to be separated by the different frequencies, it's a safe practice to have it's a safe practice to have them separated by at least 2 feet. Okay, so keep that in mind. I will talk about the line of sight and all that stuff in a little bit. All right, so we also have the repeater configuration where, you know, sometimes you cannot have a free line of sight from one point to the other. So why? Because the building is just in the middle, so you cannot have that, you know, communication going, right? Or you have trees, you have something else that is just in between. Okay, so what you do is you're gonna bring this one to here, and then here to here. Okay, and you're gonna connect the radios that are back to back with a Cat5 cable or Cat6 cable. Okay, your network cable. So basically what you do is you're gonna bring that one into this one, and with that you're gonna have continuity for your data transmission. Okay, so you have 2 groups, but what would you do? Would you keep the same frequency, or would you have a different frequency for these 2 groups? The answer is you gotta keep a separate frequency for these 2 groups. So you get this one with one frequency from pins 2 to 8, and then this one with a different frequency from ports 2 to 8. Okay, this is gonna be the access point. So this is gonna be the access point. Oops. Hang on, bro. So this is gonna be the access point, and then here, this is gonna be your access point. Okay, so pin number 1 is gonna be up. Pin number 1 here is gonna remain down. Pin number 1 here is going to remain down, and you don't have to really worry about addresses because they're only point to points. Okay, but different frequencies. All right, guys. Okay, so the angle, this is what I was talking to you about. Okay, so the angle is something that's very important. You have a 60-degree angle. We've had issues with customers calling, hey, I'm not able to get communication to some radios. Why? Because the radio that I'm trying to connect, it's over here, right? So yeah, you cannot connect to that one because the angle is not right. Now, let me say something. Some of you are going to differ and say, well, I'm able to connect it if your distance is short. If you don't have a big distance, if you're, let's say, 100 feet, even 200 feet, 300 feet, you are going to be able to connect even through trees, even through walls. You might be able to connect because the signal of the radios are strong. Okay, but that is not a right practice. If you're going to be doing this, you might want to keep this line of sight facing each other, and with that you should be able to connect. If you're doing this, you're going to be losing data. Okay, so not all the signal is going to go through, not all the bandwidth is going to be taken advantage of. So what happens is that sometimes people get away with that, and then they come and add another camera, and then add another one, and then they like, hey, I can only connect, you know, just a few cameras to the device. It's not what is spec'd for, and it's not that, guys. What's happening is that you are the waves are bouncing away, and your access point is not receiving all the information that the client is transmitting. Okay, so yes, I've seen a lot of people doing that, and you might be okay if you're only going to be doing a couple of cameras, then you might get away with it. You could be fine. but these are not the best practices. Okay, if you're deciding to add more stuff in the future, you might bump into a situation where you might not get the signal, or you might not get data, or your video is going to start looking like it freezes, right? Why? Because you're losing packages, and then it comes back to life again when it starts receiving packages again, but maybe another camera suffers. So be aware of that, okay? The fact that they need to see each other is very important if you want to guarantee that the transmission is going to be correct. Now, this is what I was talking about. Installation. We also have had issues with customers that say, hey, you know, I have free line of sight, but the free line of sight looks like this. You're barely looking, you know, you're barely seeing each other. The cameras, I'm sorry, the antennas are barely seeing each other. And this is what's going to happen. This illustrates what happens. So you might be losing about 30% of your bandwidth because the bandwidth, the waves are bouncing away on the walls of this building. Okay, if you have a tree, the waves might be being absorbed or are being, you know, are bounced away in the trees of the leaves or the branches of the tree, right? And with that, you can lose some of the data that you're trying to push from point A to point B. Okay, so the actual recommended installation is 10 feet above, so that you could have free transmission and all your waves can get to the actual destination. Okay, so again, you might say, hey, I can get away with it because it's only 1 or 2 cameras, resolution is not that big, so it might be okay. But as you add more cameras, then the safe practice is just to always have true free line of sight. Okay, also you could be like, hey, I have free line of sight, but this is the same scenario. You know, you could see the other antenna perfectly, but try to lift it up at least 10 feet, guys. And one of the recommendations that I do is you could go buy an electrical pipe at Home Depot. They're actually 10 feet, and you could strap it to the wall or to a pole. And with that, you could give that a little, you know, those 10 feet that you're needing, and put your antenna all the way to the top. And with that, you can guarantee that there's nothing that is going to interfere with the transmission of the information. Okay, it's not expensive, it looks better, and it separates the antennas real well. Now, if you don't want to do that, but you're at the edge of the building, then you're okay, because there's really nothing in between. Okay, that will not allow you to capture your data. Okay, but if you're forced to do it here or to do it here, then just get those pipes. They're not expensive, and that'll again guarantee that you can get all the transmission going through fine. Same thing, you know, this is a wall. Normally, if this is a wall, try to stay as up as possible, because normally you will have vehicles going through. You will have you know, basically, you know, many things that could just go by, trucks, vehicles, cars, and that could affect your transmission. So make sure that you push your antenna as high as possible so that you can guarantee that transmission. Okay, coming soon, guys, we are going to have some cloud management for these radios. That's going to allow you to see which radios are going to be alive, and even do some configuration remotely. But that's just on the works. We will be letting you know, maybe this is going to be ready until Q3 this year, but I just wanted to give you some heads up that this is going to be happening. Okay. And you know, you will have your cloud server. We'll give you a dashboard of the activity that you have, total devices, you know, the groups, so on and so forth. So that, you know, it's going to be something that you're going to have available for your cellular in an app form. but also on the web via an IP address through our cloud server. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we will see you next week. Have a great rest of your day.